Will that be all, ma'am?
Oh, just a little bit longer, Nelda.
Don't make her do that anymore.
You're traveling to another dimension. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Okay, well, what's up everyone? If that opening made you laugh, or confused you, or made you uncomfortable, that's understandable. Those off-camera moans were just one of a few odd moments sprinkled throughout the episode we're covering today. The title of this one is The Lateness of the Hour, and it's another one that's pretty out there. As you may have already noticed, this is also one of 6 episodes from the small group of videotaped entries you've heard me discuss previously. The Lateness of the Hour was episode 8 from season 2. It was directed by Jack Smight, and it was written by Rod Serling. As always, spoilers are ahead.
Will there be anything else, Dr. Loren?
I think not tonight, Robert.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Robert.
Up front, we're introduced to the Lorens. They're an unusual family. The Lorens are clearly wealthy, and they're living a comfortable life. Maybe a little too comfortable.
72 degrees in here. Isn't it, William? Isn't it 72 degrees?
We're told this is Dr. Loren's perfectly designed home, with everything optimized for maximum comfort. But as servants wait on them hand and foot, we get the sense that something about this situation is off. There are some familiar faces in this cast. Our lead is Inger Stevens. She portrays the Loren's rebellious daughter, Jaina.
Outside there must be the clean, beautiful sound of rain. And in here, those constant animal grunts of pleasure.
We've seen Inger before in the season 1 classic, The Hitchhiker. For the most part, she was alone in that particular struggle against a mysterious man she was unable to escape. But here we get to see her interact and play off a much larger cast. Our second major player is Jaina's father, Dr. William Loren, a brilliant scientist, as played by John Hoyt. We've seen him before in the episode, Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up?
I've got to be in Boston at 9 a.m.
And our final player, of course, is Irene Tedrow as Mrs. Loren.
Oh, please continue, Nelda.
Now, her orgasmic moaning as she receives one of the best massages in the world does overshadow the opening of this episode.
Haven't you had enough of that, Mother?
You may recall we've seen Irene before in the 5th dimension in a small but important role as Martin Sloane's mother in Walking Distance.
How can you be here?
What do you want, young man?
So we learn that Jaina is bored, distraught, and extremely dissatisfied with her life. Unlike her parents, Jaina has no desire to rot away in this mansion, isolated from the rest of the world.
We sit here day after day and year after year while that clock just turns and turns. While Nelda the maid and Robert the butler and Gretchen the cook and Jensen the handyman.
The atmosphere and tone in The Lateness of the Hour is pretty uneasy. You can just feel the tension in the air. Jaina protests her parents' servants catering to their every whim, and at one point, she loses all patience and shoves one of them down the stairs. However, the servant simply gets up and gives Jaina a sinister grin. And with this, we realize it's not just a home that's been designed by Dr. Loren, but the servants as well.
The residence of Dr. William Loren, which is in reality a menagerie for machines. We're about to discover that sometimes the product of man's talent and genius can walk amongst us untouched by the normal ravages of time. These are Dr. Loren's robots, built to functional as well as artistic perfection. But in a moment, Dr. William Loren, wife and daughter, will discover that perfection is relative, that even robots have to be paid for, and very shortly we'll be shown exactly what is the bill.
Now, I have to say, this was one of the more memorable openings from Rod Serling. When he follows into the scene after the servants to deliver his lines, it's definitely one of his more cool entrances. This story explores the Lorens' unusual lifestyle and their choice to essentially seal the family off from the outside world. Dr. Loren claims this isolation is for the best. He even goes as far as to say he's done so for Jaina's own good, to keep her safe from the horrors of the world. Jaina, of course, objects, and we go back and forth on this dynamic.
What you've done to yourselves is an atrocity. But what you've done to me is even worse. You've turned me into a freak.
Along the way, we also get some key information regarding the robots.
Robots.
The robots.
Robots.
We learn the robots have all been given a memory track. They've each been programmed with false memories of lives they've never actually lived. Now, we've seen this concept of mechanical beings with implanted memories explored, most famously in the Blade Runner films, more recently in Westworld, and we've seen it touched on before in the Twilight Zone. But here, the idea of a mechanical being with the memory track is pretty important too, and we'll come back to that soon enough. The ongoing conflict between Jaina and her father's servants is a highlight. The servants have quirky little personality traits themselves.
If I may say so, Miss Jaina, you sound jealous.
I think Stevens was at her best in these rebellious moments when she just vented her frustrations and spoke her mind.
You're jokes. That's what you are. Hysterical jokes.
Eventually, Jaina demands her father destroy the machines. She fears her parents will grow totally dependent on them if they continue on this way. Her father is conflicted over this request. After all, these machines represent his life's work. He sees them as living beings. But for Jaina's sake, he agrees. When Dr. Lauren orders the servants to his basement workshop, we get an interesting and somewhat tense moment where the machines protest. This scene is disturbing. The servants know their time is up. They're about to be disassembled. On my first watch, I was wondering if this demand would spark an uprising. It's clear the machines do wish to remain alive. In any case, they eventually comply. After the servants have been dismantled, Jaina is thrilled. This is about the only time we get to see joy from her. Unfortunately, it doesn't last long. When she reveals her desire to meet a man and have children, her parents are shocked. But their reaction is telling. And I think by this point, most viewers probably have an idea what's going on.
Something's not right. Something's not right.
Jaina refers back to the family photo albums, which contain no pictures of her as a child. And soon she comes to the harsh realization. Her memories are false, and she too is a machine who's been given a memory track.
Oh, please tell me what I am.
It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference at all, Jaina.
This reveal is executed very well. In fact, I think these closer moments were the highlight of the show. All three of the main cast shined here, and we get some heartfelt performances.
You built a daughter!
Jaina!
Unfortunately, Jaina is crushed by the revelation, and we get a mix of what seems like genuine emotion and an almost eerie, robotic reaction.
No pain! No pain at all!
Now, from here, we actually do still have one twist left, and it's a curveball I didn't see coming.
Just a little to the left, Nelda. Not quite so hard.
Of course, Mrs. Loren.
Let this be the postscript. Should you be worn out by the rigors of competing in a very competitive world, if you're distraught from having to share your existence with the noises and neuroses of the 20th century, if you crave serenity but want it full time and with no strings attached, get yourself a workroom in the basement and then drop a note to Dr. and Mrs. William Loren. They're a childless couple who've made comfort a life's work. And maybe there are a few do-it-yourself pamphlets still available in the Twilights.
So there you have it, the lateness of the hour. Despite some minor gripes, I found this one to be entertaining from the awkward start to the chilling ending. On that note, I did want to discuss the way Jaina's father went about solving the dilemma. I get it, neither he nor his wife could bear to give up their daughter. But replacing the maid with Jaina seems like a disturbing alternative. Doing so hits the reset button on poor Jaina, and turns her into a mindless servant doomed to give endless massages. That's a grim fate for her character. The conclusion also begs the question, if you're a parent with a willful child, and you were somehow given the opportunity to simply reprogram your child, would you do so? I think if the conclusion of this episode strikes you the wrong way, then there's your answer. I can't help but feel for Jaina. She wanted to free her family from their shackles. She also wanted to find out who she was and explore the outside world. So it's ironic that her desire for freedom led to her losing the semblance of life she had. This outcome could be looked at as cynical, or it could be viewed as a reality check. The search for self-identity and greener pastures may not always work out, but that doesn't mean the struggle isn't worth it.
But what you think of as imprisonment just happens to be asylum.
Clearly, the lateness of the hour covers some interesting themes, some of which relate to basic issues faced by parents. Jaina's father sees their home and lifestyle as a safe space. Jaina, however, sees the situation as a dull, predictable prison. In a way, this scenario touches on the age-old notion, how much should parents protect their children? It's natural to want to keep your child safe, but you also can't keep them in a bubble forever.
You're both reaching a point where you won't be able to exist without them.
The other key topic the lateness of the hour delves into is the pitfalls of humans growing over-reliant on machines. In this respect, the story may have been drawing on the new technology at the time.
Transistor television that plays anywhere without plugging in.
The latest automobiles, the television, modern appliances, and so on, all of which were meant to make everyday life easier for people. But it's also possible there was a concern regarding too much of a good thing. In sci-fi, of course, these types of fears translate to tales about robots replacing humans.
I'm a machine! A machine!
Or people losing control over machines, all of which we'd see in other Twilight Zones. But these ideas work well enough in this context. Granted, the lateness of the hour feels a bit like a Dark Shadows episode. There's a soap opera vibe to the whole thing, which may or may not be for everyone. We get a dark and stormy night, a mansion, and human actors. But I think it all holds together. On that note, I give credit to the production and direction. As much as I love seeing traditional 60s era robots and vintage science labs, we don't get any of that here, and luckily we don't really need it. Instead, we get a very minimal setting with direction from Jack Smight that caters to the limitation of this format. Keep in mind, videotaped episodes required shooting indoors and meant less camera setups. But Jack Smight, who directed 3 of the 6 videotaped episodes, works very well within these confines. I even noticed on a rewatch, we get what could be subtle foreshadowing of the big reveal, that Jaina herself is mechanical. There are many shots which position her next to the clock.
Everything built to perfection, Father.
Or depict the clock right in front of her. These visuals may suggest her robotic origin.
That's it.
Lateness of the hour may not be for everyone. This is one of the more quirky episodes, but I think it has a lot to offer. Whether you're a fan of this episode or not, feel free to let me know about it in the comment section below. As for me, I'd rate Lateness of the Hour 3 out of 5 animal grunts of pleasure. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this review, hit that sub button, hit that like button, and what the heck, go ahead and hit that notification button as well. This way you'll know whenever we re-enter the 5th dimension. Until next time, be well and take care. Later.